The Associated Press released its preseason rankings for the college football season Monday. The two-time defending champion Georgia Bulldogs topped the list. Silver Britches, the preseason #1, just the second time. The others 2008. They were led by Matthew Stafford that year and finished 10-3. For some context on the rest of the top 10, 3 SEC squads inside the top 5. You got Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. Just the second conference to boast 3 top 5 teams in the preseason poll. The other was the Big 12 back in 2001. So not unusual. But this is a little bit unusual for our friends in the school up north. That's what Ohio State calls Michigan. #2, the Wolverines, its highest preseason rank since 1991. Wolverines were preseason #1 after running the table in conference play that season, which ended with a loss to Washington in the Rose Bowl. How good an indicator? He's the host of the best show on our network, in my humble opinion. That's College Game Day, and he's Rece Davis. And Rece, I feel like I've said it every summer around this time, but that drum beat in our ears is getting a little bit louder, isn't it?
It's getting close, Scott. We're counting down. People have actually put on full pads and scrimmaged a little bit, so we're getting closer and closer to starting. I'm fired up.
We always are. And now we've got numbers next to teams' names. The AP preseason top 10's out. Georgia's won, and I feel like in these past couple of years, winning back-to-back titles, they've joined that place where Bama and Ohio State, and I'd say Clemson certainly this last decade have lived. And what I mean is they can lose darn near everybody, and the next year, you just put them right back there at the top because they've recruited at that level and they've earned that type of expectation. But if Kirby Smart and his staff have got questions in Athens, where do they begin?
Quarterback, and it's not that they don't have talented guys. Carson Beck likely the starter. I was told by someone close to the Georgia program just a couple of days ago that Brock Vandagriff's been really terrific in fall camp. So they've got a couple of talented options, but they're unproven. And while I don't have them ranked #1 to start as the preseason poll, I have Michigan on top. It's not unreasonable to think that Georgia's just going to reload. And the schedule suggests that they really only have 2 games that they could even find a way to give away over the course of the regular season.
Yeah, and considering that they're replacing the man that Kirby told me on SportsCenter after they whooped TCU was the greatest dog of all time, it's Stetson Bennett. And maybe people eye roll, but you put back-to-back natties on the shelf. I mean, he certainly earned a place in Dogs lore. Now, you mentioned Michigan. You've got them one. They've gone to back-to-back playoffs. Their head coach says he feels like they might have 20 guys that get picked in the draft come next spring. But as a head coach who's run afoul of the NCAA, I think he's particularly well-wired to sort of take whatever distraction that might be and put it somewhere where he didn't even ponder it. What do you sense Michigan is capable of this year?
I think you've hit it right on the head. This is not going to bother Jim Harbaugh for 1 nanosecond. I think that they have been able to use these last 2 playoff losses to continue to lock in on what they want to achieve. Now, their roster's not as talented top to bottom as Georgia's, probably not as Alabama's or Ohio State's. But they've got everything they need to win the Big Ten again, to go to the playoff, and to win the national championship. I don't think that's out of the question for them at all.
Games are coming right around the corner, and that's great. And it's the best perfume, and it's also the greatest sort of amnesia for all of us because we forget what's gone on in this last couple of weeks of turmoil. But you can't forget it because real change, seismic change, is coming to college football. And in these past couple of weeks, as you're talking to staffs and administrators around the country, Rece, what's been the tone of those conversations about just how significantly the landscape is going to change?
I think there's some resignation to it, some acceptance that it's the new reality, but a bit of a wistfulness, if coaches are capable of having that the fabric of what's made this so attractive, to fans and coaches and players over the decades is being cashed in. But it does come at a cost. It comes at a cost of some of that geographical bragging that you and I have embraced over the years. It comes at the cost of some rivalries. It comes at the cost of familiarity. I thought of this, the one thing, everybody picks on poor old Rutgers for that long cross-continent trip. But that's a direct flight. The one they ought to worry about is Penn State. I mean, that's, you know, you just fly to Newark and hop on the bus. You're good going to Rutgers. Man, wait till you try to get from Eugene to Happy Valley. That's going to be the thing. Right?
Yeah, that's strictly a private aviation scenario. You're going to have to get somebody. I guess Oregon's got the right guy. He's probably got a jumbo jet, but your point's well taken. I just want to follow one quick thing. I see a lot of people saying that it's going to, and there's going to come a time when the true greater thans are going to look at the have-nots and say, why are we sharing our money with you? And I understand that point. But we've already got the NFL. And I think there comes a point when college football understands that, just to continue with Rutgers, they serve a purpose. Maybe it's a homecoming game, okay? But they are games that matter every other Saturday, right? Like every Saturday, I should say. There are games that are important to the fabric of the sport that you can't just punt on all of them. Maybe I'm pie in the sky, am I? In thinking that it won't entirely go away.
I don't think it'll entirely go away with the games, but I think it might be viewed the way people now view playing. This is probably a little bit strong, but the way you view playing an FCS school, or the way maybe a better way to put it, the way you view playing a Group of 5 school instead of another Power 5.
Okay, that's
opponent. Fair. I hope you're right. But I think that is going to happen because at some point you have to start looking, how can we generate revenue? And I think the best way to generate revenue is more of the high-level attractive matchups. You're going to become very accustomed to 3-loss teams, maybe 4 someday, being in this 12-team playoff. Sure. And the flip side of that's been like, well, we're not going to have any of these, or maybe at most one lesser than game, and we're going to have a season full, 12 Saturdays full of the highest end teams playing against the highest end teams, because that's how we can generate the most revenue.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.